If you really focus in on her belly, you can see she's actually doing a crawl using her belly scales. It is a very cool, silent, stealthy way of moving through the forest. So many of you have been asking questions about how I incubate animals. So let's go on in because you guys have questions. I was incubating these guys too low. What's going on, friends? It's been a while since we've handled Bella. That is her name, Bella the boa constrictor. Now, Bella's been living out here. I wanted to kind of get her out and play with her. She's been a very good girl, but she is definitely used to being fed inside this enclosure. So we want to make sure we teach her that this is not a feeding situation, that it's a hanging out with daddy situation. Here we go. Holy smokes, guys. She's gotten a little bigger. Oh, and she's spindly. Here we go. Look at how beautiful she is, huh? Look at how big she's got. Yeah. This snake.
What was she when you got her?
I think she was only like 3 foot. She's been shedding quite a lot.
Wait, 3 foot? How long ago was that?
That was January. Isn't that nuts? She just, I mean, she is looking amazing. Let's put her down. I'm really excited about this because I love boas. I think they're a cool snake. Obviously, they're from Central and South America. This is a red tail here, and it is a gorgeous animal. Nice rendition. I knew I wanted one, but what happened was I put the feelers out to my buddy Ken Alfieri, and all Ken Alfieri does is drive around the United States transporting animals, and he comes across animals in need. And so if I say, hey, I'm looking for a female boa, I'm looking for this, he'll just keep it in his head. And he said, Kenan, I'm out at the Phoenix Herp Society, a place that Tom and I had visited a few years back. I'd like to get there again. And they had one that was surrendered to them that needed a home. The only thing wrong with her was she was just a smidgen underweight, not too bad. But we kind of fattened her up, as you can see. She's got a healthy weight now.
What would you say her age is?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I really don't know. I mean, she's only a couple years old at most, 2 or 3, okay. Because she was much smaller when she got here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, being ignorant about this, I'm going to ask an ignorant question.
Go ahead.
Like, I would think she's young for her to have grown that quickly.
No, they will grow quick depending on how much they consume, how much food resources they can get. Remember, you know, some animals in the wild want to get as big as possible quickly. So if the going is good, they'll grow quicker because it's an advantage to them so that they don't become prey themselves. So in captivity, we can clearly, you know, keep the parameters for her perfect. So we've actually got the really nice, you know, we've got the nice South Florida climate, which is warm all year round for the most part. It's not too far off from her natural environment. They're found, like I said, in Central America, into Mexico, south into Argentina. There's many different subspecies of the boa constrictor. And basically, you know, they're not too far off in Florida. It's perfect. It's the perfect snake, really, because they wind up, she's just a lot more squirmy. They wind up enjoying the humidity. Some of them like drier climates. You got the Hog Island boas that are found on islands. There's just a lot of really cool boa species. Even the old, what is it? The anaconda is actually a type of boa constrictor. So really, really cool snake. They can swim if need be. It'd be kind of cool to see if she will. Let's see. If she prefers it or not, I don't know. Oh, she's not going to swim today. But you see that really cool pattern? That is definitely a jungle camouflage. She can really hide well amongst the undergrowth. As they get larger, they don't really climb too much, although I do see her in her enclosure taking to the branches, wrapping up, but her favorite place is under that little bush. I'll show you in a minute. We're gonna go and have a look at her enclosure. You guys we've used that cage for so many different things, but I think Bella is really, is the belle of the ball in that enclosure. I love it. Look at her rubbing her head on the trunk of the hibiscus. That was really cool. And I've used this term before. and I've said it a million times, this is my favorite type of snake locomotion. She's doing something called rectilinear locomotion. She's actually undulating the muscles on her belly, and if you really focus in on her belly, you can see she's actually doing a crawl using her belly scales. Her belly scales are what are pushing her along. It is a very cool, silent, stealthy way of moving through the forest.
You can really see it right
Isn't
now.
that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's got such control of her musculature that she can individually move those muscles and do that little belly crawl and move around. Of course, she is a constrictor, which means that she uses her muscles and her whole body to subdue and suffocate or asphyxiate her prey. So they can squeeze so hard that in actuality, they're not only suffocating, they're actually causing cardiac arrest because the heart stops beating due to high blood pressure. They squeeze so hard, the blood just can't move. So their heart just stops beating. It's incredible. So they're a really effective ambush predator. You know, they'll just lay, strike with incredible speed, wrap, and then eat, then go hide. They have a really cool life. They don't do a lot of high energy things. It's all about conserving energy. Another interesting thing about the boa constrictor and snakes in general, especially constricting snakes, is they cannot move for months, and their muscles will not atrophy, which is incredible. If a mammal stops moving, you know, certain mammals like humans, if I stopped using my muscles, I would lose my muscles. The only way they lose their muscle is if they don't have enough nutrients to feed the muscles. Can you see the iridescence on the front of her body? If you look up, it's absolutely gorgeous. They have a sheen, an iridescence to them, and it's really just a special animal. And I'd say, Tom, I think she's about 6 foot, right?
Easily.
She's easily 6 foot.
Yep.
She can get
just about there for sure.
Well, we're only halfway there. She can be a 12-foot long snake, which is going to be really impressive. That's the other reason I'm excited. After we moved Buttercup out to Michael Haug's place in South Carolina, due to all the restrictions that I had to jump through to keep her, I wanted another large constrictor that I didn't have to worry about so many permits and things of that nature. And so the boa constrictor is definitely a species that's impressive, not quite as large as a Burmese or reticulated python, but still an impressive constrictor species.
How about temperament versus the others?
You know, it's so many people, it depends on the individual snake, but generally retics are a little bit more twitchy. Burms can tame up nicely if you get the right one and you work with it. Buttercup was a gentle giant. The boas, I've seen with our old friend Fred, you remember the boa he had? He had a huge boa. She was nasty, but she was never worked with.
Yeah.
So that's it. You know, I'm glad we're doing this video because it's been a while since I pulled her out. And so by doing the videos, I actually get hands-on with the animals, which is fun. And I give them a little one-on-one time. Because with snakes, sometimes here at the camp, you know, you put food in and that's when you interact with them. So it's nice to just take a load off, relax, talk to you guys, have the snake out, get a little one-on-one time with her. At this point, I'd have no problem just picking her up. But whenever I go into a cage situation to try and pick her up, I like to use the hook because she's always ready in that S position because she thinks food's coming in. So two things happen when the door opens, either food or she's going to have some playtime. But you can see silently moving about the recreation pond area. I wish there was a way that I can build an even larger enclosure for her that's filled with all these different obstacles, because I do treat snakes differently. I tend to treat them similar to my lizards. I like larger enclosures. I like to see the snakes moving around in the enclosures. I think the way we keep snakes is a little antiquated. I understand it for breeding purposes. Their needs are met, they're happy. But you know what, man? Isn't it more fun to see a snake like this? I mean, it's so cool.
You know, that octagon cage that we've had for quite a while here, and it's had so many things in there. How long do you think something like that's good for?
Oh, she'll be good for another few years in there, absolutely. But by that time, we'll have built something larger and we'll do something really cool for her, because if we're gonna have a 12-foot long snake, I'm gonna wanna see her stretched all the way out. That was one of the fun things about seeing Buttercup in her large enclosure. when we would see her stretched all the way out, you get such an size of her scope, and just how big, and such an apex animal. You know what I mean? Like such one of those animals that makes you stop. There was a book by David Quammen called Monster of God. And it's just about man-eating monsters, man-eating animals, and how human beings have evolved to be fearful of these things, because in our prehistory, we were sometimes prey for these animals. And large reticulated pythons, large pythons, they are a monster of God. They're an animal that commands respect when you see them, as I think are large crocodiles, large alligators, large boa constrictors. I just think it's a really interesting way to look at some of these animals and why we've got fascinations with them. Some of us are fascinated by them, we want to go closer. Others are fascinated, yet we want to go away from animals like this. But the other cool thing is if I do wind up getting a male, they give birth to live young. They retain the eggs in their bodies, boa constrictors. Again, she's all stretched out. Look at where she wants to go. She wants to go where there's cover. She wants to hide. A snake doesn't seek out interaction with human beings. It actually seeks out a place that's quiet, away from people. The reason they come near people is because that's where all the food is. That's where the pests are, or your domestic chickens, rats, other animals that these snakes use as a prey item. The unfortunate thing is when you get a large boa constrictor like this, your family small dog or small cat can become a prey item as well. So people in their native range generally shy away from them. But I've been to Costa Rica with you, Tom. Do you remember when we caught one in the wild? Amazing. It was so cool to see a red-tailed boa in Costa Rica. It would be a Central American boa.
It's like similar to this size.
Very similar, yeah. I had to hold on to it for a while to get it out of that tree trunk. We had a really fun guide. I think it's time we go back to Costa Rica. I'm just all about Costa Rica lately. I love it there. But let's go ahead and get her in, and I want to show you some other things in this video, because so many of you have been asking questions about how I incubate animals, and we were talking about parameters on keeping snakes. Also, there are some parameters about keeping the eggs of our offspring.
One question, why Bella?
Kate named her because she's beautiful. Bella means beautiful. So, our beautiful boa, Bella the boa. I let the kids and Kate, they seem to come up with good names because I'm getting tapped out with my creativity for names. If it doesn't just hit me, I'm in trouble, friends. We'll leave that hook right there. Let's go on in, and we're gonna check out the incubators, because as I mentioned, you guys have questions. I'll try and give you some answers. Right now, there's not much in the incubators. That's gonna change because we do have some redfoots that'll be nesting really soon. So let's go on in here. Look, it's a wife. I have one of those. And a stepdaughter. Love her. All right, anyway, we're in. So the incubators, we'll flick on the light here. You probably want one of those. So the incubators are sea serpent incubators. Got them from my friend Chris at Sea Serpent. Let's move this vacuum. I should have put it back in the charger. Anyway, I like the large ones because, as you know, I wind up getting quite a few eggs over the course of the breeding season where I can have this completely fill up. Now, we do have the other incubator here that's actually being used for storage, but I'm going to empty this out very soon because we're going to have two separately dedicated incubators, because I found out the last time Tom Crutchfield was here when we got the Cayman eggs, two things I found out. Number one, I was incubating too low. The thermostat I had to have calibrated, so I use these Vivarium Electronics thermostats. It's set at 89 degrees, which is the parameters you want for crocodilian eggs. And if you look on the inside, I have a secondary thermometer and hygrometer. And you can see it's 74% humidity, which is nice. And we've also got 90 degrees. So it's 1 degree off of our probe, or our Vivarium Electronics thermostat. I was incubating these guys too low. They were at about 83 degrees. So when we had a hatch, we didn't have a big hatch. Some of the eggs went bad. And what did we find? The babies trembled a little bit. So I think their neurological problem was because early on in their development, they didn't have the proper parameters. So we've got that situated now. Let's have a look at these eggs. It's always cool to check on your babies or and eggs as they're developing. We have basically a 1-to-1 ratio of vermiculite to water by weight, and we mix that in, and then nice weight on the egg here, feeling very good. And I like to put them in a bed of sphagnum moss, so I can mist this moss, and it does two things. It helps with the humidity, but it's also going to help with that eggshell breaking down as the baby develops. As the neonate inside, the embryo inside starts to develop, gets closer to the hatching process, you want to try and make that eggshell, it breaks down. In fact, the female will go in and kind of bite down when she hears the babies calling, so she helps them out of the egg. And we did that last year. You can actually see me break it open, and a little came and popped right out. I'm hoping we're going to have a much better hatch rate than we did last year. So with our baby tortoises, we're going to do a similar setup with these boxes with our pans of water at the bottom. That's creating humidity, which has dropped since I opened the door. Okay, it's gone down 63%. We're going to close it. You don't want to keep the door open too long, but it is good to circulate air in there and burp the containers from time to time. So you want to do that. Release, exchange some gases, fresh air, things of that nature. So anyhow, you got your pans of water in the bottom. What I'm going to do here is I've got the probe set at a lower temperature. Right now we have these spider tortoises, so the secondary thermometer is actually in there. It's 84 degrees on the cool side, which is what these guys want. So I'm just kind of checking things out. I'm using a little bit more data to help me out because these guys obviously are an endangered species I want to do a good job for. And of course, the eggs that we're going to be working with here in the near future, I think I'm going to have better hatch rates now that I have a dedicated tortoise, turtle incubator, and a crocodilian.
Well, let me ask you this. When you've got eggs in there, you've got sulcata eggs in there, you've got radiated eggs in there,
I know where you're going.
You've got redfoot eggs in there. You know where I'm going.
Yeah, well, basically, what are the parameters for those different species? Can they all hatch in one special incubator? And the answer is yes. By and large, many of those tortoises, even though they come from different areas of the world, many of them have similar humidity requirements and temperature requirements because at the end of the day, they're all terrestrial and they're all being laid in the ground during a certain time of the year. Now, with the case of the sulcata tortoises, they're a desert type species. They are creating a microclimate in that nest chamber. So a 70% humidity in the nest chamber is attainable because what have we seen the tortoises do? They'll defecate in the chamber of the nest, and that provides two things: moist poop, which will kind of humidify the immediate air surrounding it, and then as soon as the babies hatch, it gives them an opportunity to inoculate their own guts with the proper microbes that they need to break down cellulose. So they inoculate themselves with poop, which is kind of interesting thing that the mother does for them. So it's a way of kickstarting the tortoises. But yes, the redfoot tortoises, the sulcatas, I have great hatchings with them all being in these incubators. You can also, to a degree, alter the humidity by adding your sphagnum moss into these separate containers. So you'll have the whole incubator is going to be one temperature, but then in here you might see a different humidity, a higher humidity, or even a lower humidity in the individual boxes. So that's one of the ways you can kind of mitigate many different species in one container or one incubator. This will all get cleared out. It's got all my shipping products in it, but in the next month, this is all going to be cleared out. We're going to have, we got our temperature probe right there from the thermostat, and I want to double check and make sure that things were right. Here's something I noticed. So I have these two temp guns, right, from different manufacturers. So it says it's 90 degrees, okay, on this one. 88, 87 because we opened the door. So I want to just see what the temperature is. Look at the reading. That's the problem I was having, right? So I was like, well, wait a minute. What's that all about? So let's do this. I'll use this one. 83. Do you see the variation? It's a big variation. So what I've decided is these aren't that reliable because they could be reading something that I'm not actually pointing at. Do you understand? Like it's an infrared thing. This is giving me the best. This is 2 that are within degrees of each other, and so they're within the parameters for that species. So once you leave it shut, it stabilizes the incubator. Another thing that helps stabilize the temperature of incubators is the water pans, and I've also seen other breeders take jugs of water and place them in the incubator that are sealed, because when water absorbs heat, it doesn't dissipate the heat as quickly as air. So if you have a power failure or something like that, it'll maintain a more constant temperature in the incubator for longer, and it also keeps it from having too many variations during the course of the night. Some of these other, you can also do specific thermostat temperatures. You can have a nighttime drop in the incubation temperature. So daytime it goes up a few degrees, nighttime it'll drop a little bit. So you can somewhat mimic what happens in nature. The other thing that some eggs require is a diapause, where you're going to take the egg, you're going to pause development in that egg, and they actually need it in order to go to a full incubation. So radiateds, our spider tortoises, if we're lucky enough to have some eggs from these guys, we're gonna need to put the eggs into a refrigerating type situation. We're gonna have to cool those eggs down to about 55 degrees, because this is a species that will brumate in southern Madagascar, where they're from. They do reach some cooler temperatures. They have been called pretty rocks, and I'm starting to see why. What they like to do is burrow. So for half the year, they're just going to burrow into the substrate and be inactive. Then when the environmental situation changes, usually during the wet season, they become more active, and they will then breed and lay eggs. So what I've done is I've mixed play sand with potting soil, and then we got our Fluker's Reptile on top, and I'll add a gallon of water just poured into the substrate for some extra humidity. We have a shallow water dish here, shallow food dish. We're gonna get a few more plants, some small plants. We'll talk to Tom Holt. I wanna get some plants just to dress up their enclosure a little bit more. But these tortoises will do very well in this setup. But eventually I may bring them outside from time to time just for some natural UVB. So it's kind of fun. But it's funny, we talk about parameters for the boa constrictor, okay, to make that thing grow quickly and healthy. And one of the things I did was make sure I got a snake that does well in this environment. Then you talk about parameters for the incubators. It's all about fudging with those, making sure things are right. We made a mistake last year with our caiman, but I am very hopeful that this year we've corrected it. And now parameters for these spider tortoises. So keeping the reptiles within the Goldilocks zone for each species and each phase of the animal's life is very important. And there you have it, friends.
I got one question.
I would love to answer it.
One last question.
All right.
So these are very nice incubator boxes, right?
Yes.
Very fancy. But it's really nothing more than like you could just take a refrigerator, put a heater in it.
You're very smart.
Vacuum sealed, right?
You can do that. You could take a refrigerator, take out the compressor, take out all of the electronic components. What some people do is run heat tape along the inside walls of it, and then set it up to one of these vivarium thermostats, and you have a very inexpensive incubator that can facilitate a large load of eggs. The sea serpents do a good job because they add some things into the incubator that you need. They have a fan, and the fan is actually pulling air from the bottom and kind of moving it around. So you want to try and find, if you go online on Amazon or something and order one of those small fans that are used for computers to keep them cool, that's all you need to push air around inside a do-it-yourself incubator. You're going to want some water, get your heat tape and a thermostat, and you plug the heat tape into the thermostat. The probe senses the temperature you want, and it keeps things all copacetic, all within the right parameters. But you can either go big. I have a good relationship with my friend Chris at Sea Serpents, been using these for many, many years. Or you can do it yourself, man. I know a lot of people like that. Our friend Jason Abels has done it himself with some wine coolers. He also has a very, very old antique, beautiful antique incubator for birds that he retrofitted for his tortoises, and has amazing luck hatching Galapagos tortoises out of it. So really, really cool stuff. But good question. You can do it yourself. You can even take a styrofoam cooler and turn it into an incubator if you only have a few eggs. So there's a lot of information on the old internets there. So you can either chat GPT it or Google they're your friends. Get to work, kids. I want to see what you've done. Let me see them. Let me know in the comments below. What have you guys done? Have you done it yourself, incubators? Do you have sea serpents incubators? Let me know what you're using. I'd love to read about it because the way we all grow is by sharing ideas. That's what this channel is good at, okay? Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you again real soon. Don't forget to go to patreon.com/Kamp Kenan. So long.